Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a lovely festival, lovely time at the festival, and have plans to attend every session over the next 3 days. We have a very special session today because we get to chat with and hear from three exceptional writers of contemporary fiction who've written excellent novels. Could we have a round of applause, please, for all three of them here today? I want to quickly congratulate the three of you and thank you for writing the books. They were a delight to read, very immersive reads, and entertaining, thought-provoking, as we'll all find out soon. We only have less than 45 minutes now, so I'm getting into it quickly. I want us to begin by each of you very briefly telling the audience about the stories you've written and perhaps a kernel of thought that set you off on writing this particular story. Shunali, can I begin with you?
Sure. Firstly, I had no idea people find women this complicated. This audience is a commentary on that. But thank you all for being here. So my novel, The Wrong Way Home, is about a highly self-aware but deeply flawed woman who makes spectacularly bad choices in her life. She's married to a very successful filmmaker, the art house kind, and he's also very affluent, but he decides that he doesn't want to be married to her any longer. So the book isn't so much about divorce, but it is about what happens to a woman who, when she loses her marriage, not only loses the partner, but also loses her place in the world. She is nearly 40. And now, as a 40-year-old woman, she is navigating life in a society which is really, she discovers, built for couples. So there is no identity here now, and her pride is hurt. Her pride is hurt because she wasn't really happy in that marriage, and she still didn't have the courage to leave the scaffolding of that security and walk out. So the rest of the novel then is about her restarting her PR company and try to prove to her mother, her friends, her ex-husband who has just gotten married to an influencer half his age, that she does still matter. And in doing that, she confronts some really hard truths about herself.
Amrita, could you please?
Yeah, my novel, Real Life, is about the disappearance of a young wildlife biologist called Tara, who studies wild dogs or dholes in the Himalayas. And after she disappears, her best friend Mansi travels to the backpacker town where she was living to make sense of what may have happened. And the main suspect in the disappearance is a man called Bhaskar, who shares a connection with both women. So it's a novel about the ways in which women disappear, both from the world and within the world. And it's also a novel about what it means to seek a life that feels real, that feels authentic, in a world, in a society that's constantly trying to control and reshape women. Where did the novel start? It's very hard to say where fiction comes from, which I know was the title of a panel yesterday. But yeah, I started with this image of two best friends, two very different friends who in a way exemplify two different ways of being a woman in the world. And through these two characters, I wanted to explore male rage and female rage. It seemed like there was something interesting to explore, and I just dived in.
Bhavika, for you.
Thank you, Poulomi. So my novel is called Hot Water, and it is about a family in hot water. So, close but fractured family. Close enough, like all Indian families are, but with spaces between them, silences between them, expectations that weigh them down. So there's a single mother who is just called Ma. Then her two children, Meera, who's an 8-year-old girl, and Ashu, a 14-year-old boy. And we follow them over one very long, saturated, hot summer. And see how these characters, each of them have secrets that they're keeping from each other, including the little girl, and how when they sort of begin their summer with swimming lessons, things start to percolate in that heat. The humidity leads its way to secrets sort of rising to the surface, and the dynamics between these characters and roles, they start to shift. So we're sort of looking at the unraveling of one Indian family. We're looking at what it's like to be a child in an adult's world. I wanted to sort of unpeel what it's like to be a mother who's uncertain of her motherhood and of the role that she has been made to take on in a way, and identity and desire, both at an adult but also at an adolescent level. So there are several themes, but we will get into what the women in this book do not want, and there are several things like that. And the kernel, again, I completely echo, it's so hard to give one really erudite answer. This is the day, that time when I thought of the book, and I wrote it in one flash of inspiration, more like labored work and self-doubt over 5 years. But the voices of the characters drove me to write it, and the idea of what is it like to negotiate a family, that the dynamics in a society where there isn't a typical male presence in the room.
I have Menno Fog, so I forgot to answer what inspired me to write it. I actually noticed that in the universe that we inhabit today in India, divorce has become rather common. And a lot of my friends have been transitioning from marriages and coupledom to singlehood, and then there are enough friends who are still choosing to stay single in their 40s. And I noticed that whether it's Christmas or New Year or vacation time, these women are pretty much left on their own to make plans with other single women like them, and society very quietly sort of excludes them. And one of them actually spoke to me about it and said that, you know, you never remember to include me in X, Y, and Z, and I felt really, really quite responsible for being so insensitive. And that's how it started for me. And, you know, just like Bhavika said, it's doesn't happen overnight, but it brews in you, and that's how it became a book.
Thanks so much. Since you all have already touched on all the key words of the discussion,
SEOs.
I will go straight into that. So women have always had to grapple with labels, definitions, roles. There's the real and authentic life, lived by choice, and a parallel one that is lived to fulfill expectations, sometimes expectations that they put on themselves. And each of you has made your characters almost confront these in a very raw, real way. So can each of you talk about why you chose to portray how your characters negotiate the labels that are given to them? So you have Ma, and you have Mansi and Tara, and you have Nayantara, right?
My character Nayantara initially tries to inhabit the labels because, as you know, women are given a script the minute they are born. And when the script is handed over to us, we ourselves don't have the recognition that we don't really have to follow this script. It's just a natural expectation that we will be and move through this world in a certain manner. So she tries to inhabit the role of a wife, inhabit the role of, you know, a person who has given up her own identity because the husband is the one who's important and he counts. And also then the role of a person who now must compromise to somehow make this marriage work because she's really afraid of what she will be if she becomes single. And later on, when she does become single and she's divorced, that's the next label of a divorcee, which is on her. And she tries to outperform herself. So at first she inhabits all the labels, and now because she's seething and she feels that she must be socially relevant to be counted as a woman. I've noticed in society when a man becomes uncoupled, as they call it these days, he still inhabits the same space. But women have to shrink and start leading a circumscribed life, whether they are single or they're divorced in their 30s, late 30s and 40s. So this is what I thought, that if she's moving from label to label, when does she start questioning what is her real identity? And there's also this expectation of goodness from women, that we must be we should conform to everything that's being thrust upon us. So this was just an exploration of all of those things that she does, and she falters and makes some terrible choices because you forget your own identity with the label you have so happily embraced.
So my novel follows two close friends, two childhood best friends, Tara and Mansi, who are diametrically opposite. Tara is free-spirited, she's headstrong, she's very sure of herself, but she's also very curious about the world and open to its possibilities. And she's a wildlife biologist who spends long periods of time on her own in the mountains. Which is why I sometimes think of my novel as a fantasy. The idea of a woman spending so much time on her own in this country is a feminist fantasy of sorts. But her best friend Mansi is somebody who's more caught up in people's expectations. She has these beliefs, these ideas of how respectable women should live and behave. But we meet her at a time in her life when she's completely unmoored because her best friend has vanished, and she's questioning her own, her own beliefs and the role these may have played in her friend's disappearance. And when I was writing the book, there was this phrase that was doing the rounds on social media called the eldest daughter syndrome. I think there was even a New York Times article about it. And it's very interesting. I mean, girls in India in particular have maturity thrust upon them, have responsibility thrust upon them at a very young age, especially the oldest daughter in the family. She's expected to help out with the household chores, often expected to look after younger siblings as well. But this maturity that is thrust upon these young girls is not really true moral clarity or true emotional maturity. It's often just emotional forbearance. It's a tolerance for bullshit in some ways. So Mansi, in a way, exemplifies this syndrome. But again, we meet her at a time in her life when she is examining her own life very closely, and she sees how she's been limited by these beliefs and she wants to shed them. So we meet the characters at an interesting junction in their lives.
I couldn't agree more with both of your answers, and I feel our novels so different. They speak to each other, and they have these crossovers. And yeah, I think girls are told very often, and I think it's an affirmation, girls mature faster than boys. I think it's a way of saying you better mature faster than boys. In this book, it begins with the name, or the lack of a name. Ma is Ma. We don't know until several pages in what her real name is. And her children call her Ma. And I think all of us knew our mothers as just mummy or mama. And it's only much later when we were, a handkerchief was folded into triangles and pinned, and a name was written, and what is your mother's name, that you learned the concept of them being something else, untethered, not yours, something else in the world. And Ma in this book is a single mother, and the book is primarily told from the children's point of view. So you really see that how the whole world orbits around the children, and even that's not enough sometimes for a mother. And that is the label that I want to explore in the book, is who is she between the Ma, and her name is Leela. Who is she between the Ma and the Leela, and what happened between she just became one. And honestly, with women, it's a lot about names. Look at Amaluddin, right? George Clooney's wife, and I don't know what's happening now, but that's how she was known. And a lot of women, traditionally, they change their surnames when they're married, and that does cause a loss of identity. It's absolutely everyone's choice, but names play an important role on how the world sees us and who we are and where we come from. So that's that. And then it's not just this woman in the book. There is a very little woman in the book, and that is the 8-year-old girl, Meera, the woman of tomorrow. A girl right now who's just seen as that, a child. That's not saying anything important to her. She's in a room with her teenage brother and his friend, and they don't let her in on anything important. So there's that infantilization of little girls as well that takes place in society, and not giving them enough of a platform and to voice out their opinion. And yeah, I think labels and names are intertwined, and it's important to unpeel them and not put people in boxes.
Yeah. So connected to that, your books, all three, very differently, also explore independence, agency, boundaries, and intrusions on each of those fronts, which are, again, very, very real and very raw. And then, of course, we have what we are discussing today, which is what women don't want. So, between the two, is there an episode or a scene in the book that you would want to identify that talks clearly or clearly highlights what women don't want? You could read a passage from the book, you could talk about the episode, anything, please.
So soon after her divorce, Nayantara is invited to a party of a woman whose identity she's curating in a PR agency. This is a woman with high social ambitions. She comes from money. She has an art trust fund, whatever. As we know, a lot of people in identity seeking today, even in the world of high wealth, now like to become patrons of something or the other to give themselves a sense of meaning beyond being just Mrs. So-and-so. So she is now invited to this party, and she knows a lot of people at the party who she sees are shrinking away from her because she's no longer important. And that is when she begins to really wonder, why is it that in this world, for a woman to be counted, you really must either be married to somebody important or achieve something of your own. Without either, just being an average woman going through life, you are an invisible person in this room. And it really upsets her, and then she sees this man. I write social satire because I think I like to observe the absurdities of people, particularly if they are wealthy people. And there's a tray of champagne passing by, and she tries to reach for it, but the guy ignores her and goes to the next guest. And at that point, there is a very charming, handsome man standing by the bar who smiles at her and says, "Hi, I'd love to get you a drink." And she begins to feel suddenly attractive and visible because everyone has ignored her so far. And she, just before this, has had a conversation with a man she knows who runs an ad agency, who is really not easy to look at, but his wife quickly comes and drapes herself around him like an anaconda. And she said, "I wanted to tell her your husband doesn't look like a Dutch painting. Like, I don't want to be with him. Just because I'm newly single doesn't mean I want him." But she swallows her pride and moves on. So now this guy, Akash, is looking at her, and she suddenly feels seen, attractive, wanted. And so she sticks a little leg out because, she wants to feel a little sexy. She's wearing this dress with a slit. And then Akash just hands over a drink, and somebody taps on his shoulder, and he's also taken away. And that's when the loneliness hits her hard. She tries to leave the party, but the party, everybody's arriving as couples and getting out of cars. So she hides and books an Uber because she doesn't want to be seen as a single failure, nobody, not famous person. And that is, I think, it happens pretty early in the novel, and that becomes the raison d'etre to, kind of overcome everything.
I realized how even though our novels are very different, this is something Bhavika also said, there's a lot of common ground, a lot of common emotional ground. So I want to answer this question in a slightly roundabout way. And I want to talk about something that most women have a very complicated relationship with. Hard to say whether this is something women want or don't want, which is attention. And very early in my novel, when Tara and Mansi are both around 7 years old, they're playing this game with other girls in Mansi's building, where each girl gets an actor to play, and then she has to come and say a line in this female actor's style, or like do a dance step. And Tara is given Helen because she wants a top actress, which is usually reserved for the older girls. So just to make fun of her, they give her Helen, and then she starts dancing to a Helen song with abandon. And while Tara is very comfortable dancing, her friend feels embarrassed on her behalf. And this is adult Mansi reflecting on this episode, and she talks about how, even at that young age, there was a sense of shame about female bodies that had already invaded her mind. And then she wonders, who had told me that what you were doing is shameful? And then she says something that I find very powerful. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this about my own writing, but I do. That when you think that nobody has told you something that you believe very deeply, it's probably because everybody has told you that, right? And this is how our beliefs, our subconscious beliefs get formed. It's not because somebody tells you that this is how girls should behave, this is how women should behave, but it's reinforced in small and big ways throughout our days, throughout our years. And Mansi is somebody who struggles with self-consciousness throughout her life. Like later in the book, she talks about wanting to, reduce herself to just a gaze, just a pair of eyes. And this is something I've also struggled with. I'm an introvert. There are times when, as a teenager, I wished I was invisible. I do love watching the world. I love passing judgment, but from a distance. And then she's also self-conscious about her body, about her looks as a teenager, and then goes on to marry the first attractive man who shows an interest in her, right? Which is true for a lot of women who have low self-esteem, and this is something that comes up in your book too, Shunali, this complicated relationship between attention and self-esteem. So yeah, I suppose what women don't want, which I've answered in a very roundabout way, is this additional scrutiny, right? Additional scrutiny on our physical selves.
I wanted to quickly add to that before we give you a chance to speak, sorry. What you just said about attention, I don't know which woman here is familiar with this, I'm sure many are. When an inappropriate pass is made at you by a person who could be a friend's husband or an uncle or an uncle's friend, your immediate question isn't that he is a bloody creep, or maybe that is your first thing, but the next is, did I lead him on? Right? But men who DM women day and night without ever considering whether they can even communicate to you in a language that human beings understand, you have to see every Indian human being. I aspire to have the confidence of an Indian man. Because shakal nahi dekhi, akal nahi dekhi, hello friend, I want to meet you and date you. Okay. And we are spending our life questioning ourselves.
Carry on.
Well, I'm still laughing, but I couldn't agree more. Going to borrow two keywords from here. One is attention and the other is judgment. It's kind of funny. In the green room, you asked me, Shunali, that this mother, she welcomes advances from a coach who maybe you said she's, you said, isn't she too attractive for him? Yeah. And I think I said something
Not to attractive, isn't she like of an upper social, whatever, strata? Yeah.
Yeah, so a bunch of things. I think she is too attractive, and yeah, they come from different places in the world, and in India there's obvious segregation. And it was somewhat similar to what you both just said, self-esteem sometimes, and just her situation. So I just wanted to add that. But to speak of a passage in the book, which is about, I've forgotten the original question, but independence,
boundaries.
What women don't want. Okay,
Yes.
so judgments, but from men. So I'm just going to read a very short passage, which is from the point of view of a child. So it's going to be in a child's language. And they are in a car, the mother and Meera, who is narrating this, and her brother. Ma drives us around everywhere in our sun yellow car, always cool as a cucumber, no matter how many people honk at her or hiss something to her. Sometimes rickshaw uncles wearing brown t-shirts and taxi drivers stop right in front of our car and say ugly things to Ma. One time, an uncle in a long black car rolled down black windows and shouted, "Why bother? You people can't drive." Ma simply stuck out her middle finger and increased the volume on whatever CD she had on. Simon and Garfunkel, the Cranberries, or U2, I don't remember, and sang along. I wondered what the man meant by "you people." Did he mean people who worked in offices and read big books? Or those that had mud brown hair like Ma, with a mole on the left cheek and a wisdom tooth shape now covered with gum paint? Could they not drive? Ma explained that he meant people like her and me, women. People without any hanging bits down their front. Well, most people don't, but that's a conversation for later.
So we'll be running out of time in a bit, and I do want you all to spend some time answering questions. And so in the end, there is that one big question. If women know what they don't want, does it mean that they know or even should know what they want? Your comments.
Okay, so you know, it's very easy to know what you don't want, but you have to go through a lifetime of knocks and experiences to arrive at what you want. But we've all gone through a list of what we don't want. I want you to add one more thing to that. So yeah, we don't want self-erasure, we don't want blah, 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 all of these things I've just wasted my breath on because it's not going to change anytime soon. But I have a podcast called Not Your Auntie. And it's called Not Your Auntie because I was at a store 3 years ago. I do this podcast with my fellow writer friend Kiran Mandral. I was at a store 3 years ago and there was a man who was nearly my age or maybe 5-6 years younger. He said, "Auntie, hato to yahan se," okay? And I turned around and looked, there was no auntie, I was the auntie, okay? So auntie is spoken of as pejoratively, right? So when we say we don't want labels, we don't want to look at my grey hair or my blue hair or my purple hair and already form this strong judgment about who I am, just like you don't do this about, by and large, other species. Okay? So yes, and what do we want? It's a very long, painful process, but I think we want a seat at the table, literally. We want to be allowed to occupy space the way we are comfortable with it. We don't want to live for performances, and also we don't want the burden of wanting to stay young. Please understand, it is mad these days. When a woman's age is spoken and she's looking her age, it's almost spoken of as if it's her fault that she's grown older. Aging is just a side effect of not dying young. So it's not my fault if I have wrinkles and I'm not on Botox. And there is an Instagram reel which says, "You are not old, you're only poor." And then they show all the Kardashians and all the people who have got facelifts and everything done. So just take this burden away from us, just let us be. I think feminism really is so often misunderstood. We are just saying, you're amazing, we are amazing, let's just coexist and respect each other. Give me dignity. That's all.
I really can't top what Shunali said. It's not a competition, I know, but let me answer this question in a slightly different way again. You talked about how whether it's enough to know what you don't want, whether that also means that you need to have women need to have a clear idea of what they want. I want to go back to my own life here, which has been a series of zigzags. I was trained as an aerospace engineer, so I'm a rocket scientist.
Wow.
Then I worked in management consulting and in tech in Silicon Valley for several years. I hated all those jobs, absolutely. And I took a break before I moved to writing fiction. Now I have a balanced but overfull life where I also work in public health. But, you know, most of my 20s was spent figuring out what to do next by elimination. And I think I had a much clearer idea of what I don't want than what I want to do with my life. And through my own journey, I know that sometimes having a clear idea of what you don't want can be clarifying, can be illuminating. It takes time for anyone to know what they want. But of course, everything that Shunali said, all women want.
Yes to everything. And I think the women in this novel and the women that I know, they want to have the freedom to live life authentically, true to what their passions are, true to the different roles that they occupy, without being labeled as selfish for doing so. And don't even mean that women or people should be selfish. You can very much keep in mind your family, your partner, everybody should grow. But women often get stifled in that, race to growth in relationships and families. So I think women want to just have that space and freedom to grow in their careers, be who they are, whatever that may be. As a woman from Delhi, we want safe streets, as from that passage. I think we want laws that support, our own decisions regarding reproductive health. Very scary in the US, like many things. This particular woman, like Virginia Woolf says, wants a room of her own, and she has one where she can write and publish books and speak to other wonderful women like this.
So we are doing very well on time, and we have time for questions from the audience. I just wanted to thank you all again. These are great books, guys. Just pick them up, read them, recommend them, and get others to buy them, talk about them. Can we have questions from the audience, please? Yes? Can we get a mic?
Hi panel, hello. My just question is like since the time of Mary Wollstonecraft and then Maya Angelou and Virginia Woolf, we have all been talking. So since I'm audible now?
Yeah.
My question to everyone here, and even Sudha ma'am is sitting here. So since the time of Mary Wollstonecraft and Maya Angelou and Virginia Woolf, we've all been talking about like how to modern contemporary Indian fiction, like women repeatedly said that they do not want to be nice. So like why does fiction still hesitate to fully embrace the angry, selfish and ambitious woman without redeeming her?
Are you asking this question to a particular, all three? Okay.
Would you be able to paraphrase it a little? I couldn't hear.
Why does fiction hesitate to portray flawed women? Please buy my book, and hers. They're all flawed. It's not hesitating any longer.
It happens in every book that when we come to the last chapters, women start apologizing.
It's a good question, and my perspective is that when we write women that are flawed, or like everybody, human beings are flawed, they are labeled as unlikable, and that's supposed to be a negative review, and I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, even in my book and even in my first book, I like to write about ambitious women whose ambitions may be very different. And I'm very fascinated to explore the relationship between women and their work. So it's a theme in all the fiction that I write. But, the form that their ambition takes may not necessarily conform to society's definitions of ambition. It's about, pursuing a life that feels real and authentic to you. And I have got this feedback about, my characters, just like Bhavika said, that they are unlikable, almost like it's a negative review. But no, I mean, not all women need to be nice in fiction or in real life. You need to be kind, but not nice, and there is a distinction between the two. And I won't apologize for my characters not being nice.
Any other questions from the set? Yes. The gentleman here, please.
I promised I'll share the mic with her, so can we do 2 questions if you could? Okay, so my quick question is, what might a young daughter want from her father growing up?
Do you want to, are you directing the question to one person or? Sure.
If that is a autobiographical question, I have to say the fact that you're answering it means you're a thoughtful father.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to say.
Any of you want to take it?
Okay. I think that fathers who don't tell their girls that girls shouldn't be this way and shouldn't be that way, and fathers who sort of introduce girls to all sorts of things, but ultimately see where does her interest lie in pursuing, education or working later, whatever, and who don't judge them for making wrong choices. Because I think that when girls pick on wrong boys and date, and whether it's a broken engagement or whatever, even a relationship, somehow, you chose the wrong guy. I mean, nobody gets through life with just the right choices. So I think just be around and chat with them and be their friend sometimes, and a little slightly firmer father at times when it calls for it. But all the best to any young father today, because I mean, none of us, the internet is raising our children. So.
Yeah, same things, love, support, the freedom to make mistakes while you have their back, I suppose.
And I think shaping men and boys is very important as well, with the same mindset. In my book also there's Ashu, who's a 14-year-old boy, and I think who he will be is a result of how he is shaped to be at home. So yeah, mothers and fathers are responsible for shaping the people of tomorrow.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'll be quick. Hi. So I want to ask that all our language is borrowed from the theories of these women writers, Simone de Beauvoir, Helen Sukes. They talk about how it's not just a patriarchal world, it's the language is also patriarchal. We live in the language which is borrowed from a man's world. And it would be, I would be living under a rock and saying that this is not a patriarchal world. I do need support of men. And as women, we do need great fathers, we do need great grandfathers, and it would be stupid of me to think that, oh, we can just go about the world. We need that support. Unfortunately so, we really do need it. And amidst this, when there are uncouth men, do you think that having those DMs in our Instagram, having those hecklers who call us when we are driving, how do we maintain and develop the mechanisms of indifference? How do we just turn blind eye, we get those blinders and just do what we want to do and achieve what we want to achieve? My question is for mechanisms of indifference. Thank you.
I feel like this is almost a spiritual question, right? How do you cultivate a mindset of equanimity? And I mean, modern life is just an assault of distractions in different forms. Of course, some distractions are also potentially dangerous. I mean, if you put physical safety aside, because that's where you really need, like societal support, you need systems, you need laws to ensure safety. But if you put that aside, I mean, I suppose you just have to do inner work to learn to ignore what doesn't serve you.
I think we have generational, civilizational trauma as women. So it's not going to go away so easily. Just we've suppressed and circumscribed ourselves, our mothers, grandmothers. So I don't think it can just, at least I can speak for myself, I still get triggered when someone does this. And
I just want to quickly add that one side of it is, mental health and choosing your battles in life, and also being safe in situations that may be dangerous. But the other side is don't be indifferent. It's not okay. And I think at some level, while maintaining our peace and not engaging with everything that happens with us, it's important to keep remembering that this is not how it should be. We shouldn't be assaulted on the street. We should not be interrupted. And as long as we have conversations with ourselves and with people around us, men and women, whoever, and we make policies that work towards this, then the conversation will be alive, and this kind of session will happen until the day there is no need for such a session, right?
I would like to ask a question, please.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Why women suffer? They suffer because most of the time they are worried what others think of us. Even in this whole conversation, I was listening at the backstage. That boy did not recognize, or the boy did not appreciate. Why all these things? Women should be Like, I don't worry as long as I'm legally, ethically right. Let him not, somebody will say, you are beautiful, it doesn't matter. The same person may say, you are not beautiful. Women should develop an inner strength that is essential in life than all these things. When you have that courage within you, then you should do what your passion tells you to do, as long as legally, ethically it is right. So many things we can solve if we do not worry about what people think of us. That's what I feel fundamentally. Women are worried what others think of me, what neighbors think of me, what society thinks of me, as long as it is legally, ethically right. Okay? This is what I feel makes women different.
That's very beautifully said, ma'am. But I wanted to quickly give you a rejoinder to that. From a very young age, you're told, oh, don't do this, what will he say, what will uncle think, what will this think. If it's not your mother, then it's probably your maid saying it, or it's a teacher saying it, or it's your friend's mother saying it, okay? There was a time that girls shouldn't be seen, should only be heard. This kind of nonsense used to go on. So the thing is, we grow up not looking at ourselves, we grow up looking at ourselves from another perspective. We other ourselves. What Simone de Beauvoir said, we are ourselves othered. Forget the men othering us. We are only a sum of what everybody else thinks of us. So, I think parents also then have to start raising their children. And I think today it is happening. Kids are growing up with a stronger sense of self than mothers saying, ye mat pehno, wo mat pehno, log kya bolenge.
In Kiran Desai's new book, The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny, there is a part which I wrote haha next to, which is that, other people in the West, they can be cool. To be cool means not to care what others think of you, but Indians can never be cool because there'll always be a fufa, bua, mama, mami too, whose judgments we're afraid of. And yeah, I would say women, definitely it's a beautiful sentiment what you just said, but yeah, Indians, relatives.
Amrita, do you want to add something to that?
And I quickly want to say that both women and artists and writers could do with less thinking of what will other people think.
Any other? Yes, please. Can you get the mic too? Yes.
Hello. My question is, like, we all know how J.K. Rowling used to publish her books by a gender-neutral name for obvious reasons. Do you feel or do you experience that system is still pertinent in your industry?
Are you asking me?
No, the whole panel.
All of you.
Sorry.
Not in my experience.
Yeah, no. Not really, no. That's a personal opinion, very honestly. Are there, yes, please? Gentleman at the back.
Wonderful discussion. I think we need to give men a little bit more time. Little bit more time. We are changing, right? Be kind to us.
You're right. So we already said men are amazing. We need men. We need men, we love men, we like men, sometimes we tolerate men. We just want you to treat us how we treat you. Treat us like men. Treat us like all the men you treat.
I have nothing more to say. That's true.
Yes, ma'am, in front. We just have time for this last question.
Okay, I just want to quickly ask you this. In my personal life, I have encountered these places where there are women and, their husbands are praising them. Ye bahut acha khana banati hain, ye karti hain. And if I say that, have you ever questioned ki wo khana banane ke alawa bhi, does she do something else? Is there something else she wants to do? Then they are like, these have been actual incidents. Ki you are making a happy woman unhappy. And I wonder if there is, a self-satisfied paradise of women, and I don't have the keys to that paradise. Am I right? Are all women like me? Or am I, a sort of an outsider cult? And, there is this whole set of women who are very happy with their lives about whom I don't know or can't see. What do you think?
I have a dog, and whenever I have guests, I sometimes have to tie her up. And then I go to her, Lilo is a good girl, Lilo is a good girl, Lilo's a good girl. So she feels so good about being tied up. That's what it is.
Amrita, would you want to take that now?
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss.
I think Mrs. Sudha Murthy is still here. I just wanted to.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I can't see you.
Yeah, here. Right
Oh,
in the
sorry,
front,
sorry,
right in the
sorry,
front. I have been one woman who kind of radiated into a self-empowered person, but it is very difficult to keep the family along because the men are not changing. And as Mrs. Sudha Murthy was saying, that the laws definitely protect, but the social laws are very different than the whatever is written. And I have my daughter with me. I have raised her as a competent and self-reliant person. I think that she's never gonna get married because she's such a self-reliant person. No man wants a self-reliant woman to be her wife.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being here.